Hi, everyone. It's Coach Sandra, and I'm here today with an interesting individual, Marcy Verburg. You're not just a realtor, you're also a wellness coach. Is that right?
That's right.
I'm so excited when I found someone like you because real estate has interesting challenges. And a lot of times I talk about this in coaching that we're like real estate athletes. Like if we really want to succeed, we got to take care of our body, our well-being, right? I just find it so important. So when I found you, I was so excited and I kept saying, "Oh, we got to do these videos." So you and I are going to be doing these videos about once a month, and we're going to select a topic that will assist realtors like us succeed in their business by grounding themselves in wellness. So I'm curious, and I'm sure everybody else is too. Let us know, where are you from? Which office?
From the Roncesvalles office.
Right. So you're with the
Mhm.
connectors. I'm with YCR, of course, and we've got the sister offices with YCR and Connect. And
Mhm.
and I'm totally excited that you're here and that you agreed to do this with us.
Me
And
too.
thank you. Um, Now you've been a wellness coach. You and I had some interesting conversations around. You've been a wellness coach for 30 plus years, and we kind of giggled because coaching's not been like a catchphrase for 30 plus years. So tell me a little bit about what you've been doing.
Okay. From a fitness perspective, I've really been part of fitness my entire life. It's something when I found when I was about, late teens, kind of got into working in gyms, learned, I found that I really enjoyed, kind of coaching people and helping people, taught fitness for a long time. I've always been a foodie. And I have a huge attraction to nutrition. And so I am, now a certified nutritionist. And I love the fact that I can help people, talk about food and their feelings around food and how that can affect their life and their well-being, along with also their fitness.
And you know what? It really goes hand in hand. Often we hear that. I mean, and it's interesting because people are always talking about wellness and they automatically assume that it has to do with weight or weight management. And I don't. And so I'm so glad to hear that you're a foodie because it really has nothing to do with weight. Being a healthy body is exactly that, a healthy body, being the best that you can possibly be for what is meant for you. And we need that healthy relationship with food, and we need that healthy relationship with fitness as well. And our mindset, I've been coaching for a long time now, and I really notice I can tell when my agents are not eating well or they haven't taken care of their body because there's a different kind of energy attached to them. Like they might be a little more aggressive or talk a little bit faster. Like I can always see there isn't a calmness around them when they're not eating well, when they're not taking care of themselves. And so I'm delighted. I can't thank you enough for doing this series of videos with me so we can all learn. One thing I have to say about you is you and I've had some good conversations around health, fitness, and you are knowledgeable. You know your stuff. Like you're not like one of those how would you call them? Like, there's always these fad kind of in style things. That's not what you're about. You're about slow and steady wins the race. And
Mhm.
I really like that about you. And you're wholesome. So I think that's great. And today we're actually going to be talking about sleep, which,
Right.
which is so crazy. You've taught me a thing or two about sleep. I actually wake up now first thing in the morning. I go outside for a 15-minute walk.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And that's
That's
because of you.
great.
That's because of you. Okay. So why is sleep so important? Let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, sleep is, obviously super important because, your whole life is kind of based on how much you sleep, right? What happens at night when you're sleeping is all of your recovery, your brain gets to recover, your body repairs itself. It takes time from a break from some of the processes we are doing every day. It's time to regenerate and rejuvenate ourselves, right?
Mhm.
And if we don't sleep well, we all know this, the next day you just don't feel so great. And if you have a whole bunch of consecutive nights where you don't sleep well, it really starts to add up. And then, it's affecting your energy levels and affecting your productivity levels. And it also affects things like your weight management. It goes really far and deep.
Yeah, you know what? I heard that that yeah, your weight I know that we're like, we talked about that, but I just found it interesting that, the weight, like I feel very fluffy if I don't get a good night's sleep. Let's put it that way. And it's interesting because when we talk about success and mindset for success, there are some theories out there that we just don't need to sleep 8 hours or whatever, that sleep is not that important. We have 24 hours a day and 8 hours is being wasted on sleep. And so what you're saying to me is then when it comes to being a successful entrepreneur and realtor, that's not the case.
Yeah, that's definitely not the case, because say, for example, you're working a lot of hours, say you work a 12-hour day or 16-hour day, and then you get no sleep. Are you really at the top of your game for that entire time? Or if you were feeling a lot better, in a better mindset, you're more rested, are you able to get a lot more accomplished within a shorter period of time? And, I'll just add to what you're saying. What's really interesting is somebody once told me that you can either sleep now or you lose it at the end of your life, right? Because what happens is if you cut back those hours now, it's not going to benefit you in the long run, right? So it's really important to get the sleep now. You're not benefiting your older self by any means.
I agree. And I remember a conversation that you and I had also. By the way, I'm sitting on a Bosu ball because you got me, Gordon.
I should be sitting on one too.
Gordon Sue started coming to coaching and to meetings on a Bosu ball. And then some of the conversations that you and I had, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to switch it out and put this Bosu ball. So I got inspired by you and Gordon, and I've been doing it. So if people see me like fidgeting, that's what I'm doing here. And it's made a big difference, I have to say, with, my back and things like that. But that's a conversation for another day. We were talking about quality of sleep because really, there's theories that say 8 hours sleep, but there are some people that do function with less hours of sleep. And so therefore, maybe it's the quality of sleep. Can you help us understand that a little bit? Because the other day we were talking about melatonin and melatonin levels and, help us understand that.
Right. Okay. So we know there's probably around, 3 to 4% of people who really technically don't need the full amount of sleep. Right. So there is an odd handful of people here and there, right? Majority of us do not fall into that category. So, the odd person sleeps 4 hours a night, fine, great, right? But in terms of quality, what you want to do is go to bed and not wake up ideally, or maybe wake up only once. And you want to wake up in the morning, you want to feel rested. You don't want to feel like you need to turn your alarm off 10 times, right? And if you're waking up in the morning and you just can't get out of bed, you may have gone to bed too late or just had really poor quality of sleep, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to spend the appropriate amount of times in kind of your deeper sleep. So your body that's when your body's actually doing its full recovery cycle, is when you're fully asleep, right? Right. And so, what I've been finding with my clients is that a lot of people don't really realize, what their sleep quality is. And so we've had them, I'm now using more devices with people so they can track it, right? The watches are great. The new kind of industry standard is the Oura Ring, which gives you fabulous data. And it even tells you, should you be exercising the next day? Should you not? One of the things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All based on all based on your night's sleep, like what you should be doing the next day.
Yeah. So it knows, like it reads your, so with these watches and the rings, they read your heart rate overnight, right? And so it's really interesting to see what is your heart rate overnight? And if it's too high, it could come from a number of different reasons, right? But your heart rate is supposed to drop overnight, right?
Correct. Oh my gosh, I find it fascinating. I never even thought about that. So if you're not getting a good night's sleep and you're waking up feeling groggy or fluffy, maybe working out is not the right thing for you, but that's based on then a few other things as well that we might not know unless we're using those tools. I find it fascinating. Some people talk about doing a glass of water before bed to keep hydrated over the 8 hours. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't have any research that says that that's necessary. The research I've read usually says to kind of stop drinking things a couple of hours before bed. Now, that might also depend on your age and, whether you're waking up automatically in the middle of the night,
Right,
to use
right.
little boy's room or not. But yeah, I think what we want to do is start to kind of shut down our system as we get closer to bedtime. Now that being said, like I think still a nice cup of tea is always something, obviously herbal tea before
Right.
bed,
Not
right?
caffeine.
Yeah, no caffeine. Let's just make sure I'm saying there's no caffeine here.
Yeah.
So like going to bed, having a nice something very soothing,
Right.
right? So if
Right.
you're not somebody who already kind of wakes up in the middle of the night because their bladder's full, then a small cup of tea would probably be nice.
Right. Right. And so how many hours before you decide to go to bed do you think, would you advise, what would you advise before? How many hours before you go to sleep?
So most of the research says stop eating like 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Have like a nice protein meal,
Right.
2 to 3 hours before, and not your biggest meal. It's better to not have your largest meal, which I know we all kind of do.
I know. I switched
A
it around. It made a big difference, actually.
mm-hmm.
So I got to tell you, I got to have a bit of a giggle with you. So I did try, just out of curiosity, that one, cup of water before bed.
Okay.
It did not improve the quality of my sleep because I was constantly getting up.
Right.
It was like, so yeah, you got to be careful with some of these theories. It's interesting. I mean, by all means, give them a go, have fun figuring it out.
Right.
But always, ground yourself in research. There, I like to trust research. So I'm glad that you're saying that. The other thing that you had mentioned the other day, I think it was on a group coaching session, if memory serves me well, we were talking about waking up and going outside in the sun for about 15 minutes. And that starts it sets your circadian. I don't know.
So
It feels like I'm making
yes.
up words here. Did I say it right?
It just sets your body rhythm. So what happens is your body sees sunlight, says, okay, I'm awake, right? So it starts producing your melatonin levels at the correct times. So if your body knows it's morning,
Mm-hmm.
it knows. So your ability to sleep well the coming evening starts in the morning. So, and we call it a word called sleep hygiene. So we like to have really good sleep hygiene, which is going to give us a better quality sleep. So by getting up first thing in the morning and going for 15 minutes outside, you could walk or you could even just stand there, but in sunlight. So it's, the idea is you get out of your house, right? So it's, yeah, not in the house, it's outside. So not walking in your treadmill in your house, it's light. And so your body feels like, okay, this is morning.
Right.
And then that's going to be evening.
Right.
So it sets all your rhythms. And, I have like, my executive type people, I'm like, okay, I know you have to get to the office and you have a busy day.
Right.
But if you don't sleep well, it's not going to be a good day. So you need to get out there and do this in the morning.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. So I found that when I first took your advice, I felt actually groggy. I had such a good sleep that it was like my body was starving for sleep. I didn't expect that. And that lasted me about 3 days. And then everything just started to kind of click in and become natural again. The other thing I stopped doing is having my phone right beside me.
100%.
Right. And as realtors, coaching, I've been coaching for, oh my gosh, I think it's close to 20 years now. And I hear of agents who want advice on how do you reply to clients at 10:30 at night. And I'm like, you don't, unless there's something fundamentally like something urgent or you're working on an offer, you don't. You just don't do these things. Number one, you're not taking care of yourself. And if you're not taking care of yourself, how are you supposed to take care of your clients? And apparently something about the light that comes off of the phone on top of it interrupts the melatonin levels.
Right. So I think we're hearing a lot about this in the media lately. So it's that kind of, the blue light, right? And so we know the best thing we can do is have no screen an hour before bedtime.
Yes.
Right.
Ooh,
no screen at all for a full hour.
That might be torture for some of us realtors.
I know it's torture, right? So I guess the thing is, do your people really need to hear from you at 10:30 at night? Right. If you're negotiating an offer, okay, that's an exception.
Right.
Sure. Right. But do you need to just send them a check-in email?
Yeah.
Or don't really at 10:30 at night, right?
Exactly.
I think
Exactly.
it's more habit. And realistically, are people scrolling Facebook
Yeah. Oh
at
my gosh. That's the other thing too, right? If we're not dealing with clients, we're using it as our entertainment center to, maybe doze off. And you know what? Sometimes if that's the case, then that's okay. But then these phones are amazing right now because you can set like what they call bedtime and it'll
Mhm.
shut down and it'll put it on quiet.
No
Um,
notifications,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And I like what you're saying about, do our clients really need to hear from us at that time? And the answer is no. Even if they are messaging us, they're probably messaging us because they're checking something and they don't want to forget, or their next day is going to be busy. And so
Mhm.
they've just put it out there and then we can deal with it, normally with
Yeah,
proper energy in the morning. Yeah.
I
Oh,
agree.
awesome. So, okay, so let's close this off with some tips.
Okay.
What tips would you give to our realtors to get a good quality sleep?
Okay. So we mentioned the first one, which is the sunlight walk in the morning.
Right.
What's really important is keeping a regular schedule. So your weekdays and your weekends should look the same. And I know we're all very guilty of staying up a little later on the weekend, but
Right.
it's better for your body if
Right.
it knows, because don't forget your body sets all the other things it has to do based on when you're sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you keep changing that, and our bodies like to stay the same, they don't want to change,
No, they
right?
don't. I
To keep
know.
messing it up, right? We talked about, okay, so going to bed before midnight, really important. We know that sleep before midnight is better than
Yeah.
our sleep that comes in after midnight,
Yes.
right? A cool, clean, decluttered room,
Ah,
right?
whew, good luck with that one.
I
Especially with
know,
all
I
this heat
know.
these days.
I know. So the less clutter around you, and also that depends probably on your stress levels. Clutter stresses me out. Some people it
Me
may
too.
not, right?
Yeah.
And so along with that, you want to lower your stress level. And so try to get your stress level down. I find a lot of people works really well is a brain dump before bed.
Uh,
So if you're somebody who wakes up in the night and you're like, oh, I forgot this. Oh, I have to think about this. So before bed, just have a journal, write down just dump it out of your head onto the paper. Then
mhm.
you won't forget it. It's safe for the next morning. It'll still be there when you wake up,
Right. I love
right?
that.
Yeah, and you can deal with it then. No
And
alcohol or caffeine
oh, yeah, that
before
that
bed.
we got a few agents with their arms up in the air right now. Like, what do you mean a schedule? What do you mean no alcohol, no caffeine before bed? But you know what? You're absolutely right. And I'm going to call it discipline. Okay, this type of
Mm-hmm.
discipline. And initially it takes a little bit of willpower. I have a saying that in the beginning, a couple of days of willpower will yield you years of freedom, right? So this little bit of discipline, this little bit of willpower will yield a strong business and strong because you're a strong entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I would imagine as the last tip would be lights out, no lights on.
Right. Oh yeah, it should be very dark, right?
Ah,
Yeah, your room ideally is pitch black,
yes. I've
right?
been doing that. That was a little hard because I'm one of those that like to sleep with the light on. When you
Yeah.
hear things that go bump in the night, you're like, what is that? And to be able to
Mm-hmm.
see, it's like, yeah, I'm one of those. But I've been doing the lights out, and oh my goodness, it really, I wake up feeling refreshed. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Marcy.
You're
Um,
welcome.
if anybody had any questions about, or, around wellness, around sleep, or they might even be thinking about, talking to you about training them, because you understand realtors.
Mm-hmm.
I have tried other fitness trainers and things like that, and they did not understand our lifestyle. So it's amazing. That's why I said in the beginning, super excited, that you've come along because you're a realtor, you get the business, you understand it, and you will coach around that. So how would someone find you?
So they could find me a couple of ways. One would be on Facebook at Marcy Verburg, or you could also email me, Marcy Verburg at royallepage.ca. Mhm.
Excellent, excellent. And I'll make sure that I post all of that as well, just in case people miss that.
Great.
It'll be in the post. Awesome. Marcy, thank
Okay.
you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you. And we look forward to seeing you next month.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Sandra.
Thank you. Bye for now,
Okay.
guys.
Bye.